I'd like to take a few minutes to identify what I believe are the 5 major objectives for the board between now and June 30th. First and foremost, we will hire a superintendent. We will devote whatever time, attention, and resources are necessary to make the right decision. This will be the single most important decision that any of us will make on this board, almost certainly. And on July 1, we will have a great superintendent under contract and in place, no matter how much work that takes. Second, as I've already said, the Parent Engagement Committee is charged with an immediate review of our policies, and they will propose improvements by July 1. We must accelerate parental involvement, and we must dramatically increase the capacity of our parents to be involved. We must also put greater emphasis on helping parents determine for themselves what they want for their children, and on getting them the skills, the information, and the tools they need to help make decisions and to help their children learn. The cornerstone of a strong school system and a strong democratic community is parent and citizen participation. As the representatives of our parents and of our city, we, the board, have an obligation to drive this process, and we will. Third, we will work with our Clark parents to identify, develop, and begin to implement a plan for that school. We cannot and we will not end this year without having a plan in place that gives the Clark community every reason to be optimistic. What seems like a long time ago, I made a promise to Clark parents that I would never support a plan for their school which they themselves did not support. I keep my promises. Any plan for Clark will be parent-driven. For too long, people who lived elsewhere have been allowed to decide our future, our children's future, and our city's future. That stops. Hartford's future and the future of our children is for us to decide. Fourth, we will continue to improve our non-magnet facilities. We've already made a dent in this area in terms of the extensive list of repairs and upgrades that our oldest schools need, and we will continue to invest every available dollar in this area, which means any surpluses which we may run at year end. We also will ask the city for additional capital improvement funds, specifically for repair and upgrades to our older facilities. We know that the city's financial situation is delicate, but we also know there's no better investment than our children. We will also complete and begin to implement the uniform standards for cleanliness and upkeep, which were recommended last year by a special committee of the board. Not all our schools are modern, and sadly not even all of them are well equipped, but they can all and they will all be clean and well organized and in good order. Neither the chair nor the board will tolerate any excuses in this area going forward. This is an absolute priority without which nothing much can happen. If we don't have a good, solid environment for our kids in every school, it's hard to expect great results. I am thinking specifically of a day when I was at Milner School before the turnaround plan, and I was in the library with some parents, and it was not in a very good state. There were 2 clocks, neither of which worked. There were holes in the walls, holes in the carpets, and assorted other real problems. And I think some of you know I was very privileged in my own education, and I looked at some of these parents and I said, would you like your kids to go to an Ivy League school someday? And uniformly they said, yeah, of course. And I said, well, I'll tell you what an Ivy League school doesn't look like. It doesn't look like this. And we cannot expect our kids to be winners, to achieve, to build better lives for themselves, their own families, if we don't provide them with a quality physical environment. I do mean to sound pedantic. This is going to be an area in which I intend to place a lot of priority as chairman. All our schools will be in the best shape they can be, and they will be clean and well ordered, and there will be uniform standards which will be high and they will be enforced. Finally, the board will take the lead on attacking chronic absenteeism. My friend Mr. Poland has been hot on this issue for 6 or 7 months now, and he was absolutely right to do so. We need to start taking action on the strong words that he properly said. A lot of this work obviously will be done by the employees of the board, but we ourselves have a critical role to play. We have to make available the necessary funds, which we will. We will adopt the necessary procedures as recommended to us by our employees, and in this case, it'll be our job as representatives of our city and community to drive the implementation of our policies. As community leaders, it is our responsibility to educate our parents on the long-term debilitating effect of chronic absenteeism, especially in the primary grades. And anyone who's looked at those numbers know that chronic absenteeism in the primary grades usually leads nowhere good. And we must get that word out. We must work with our parents. There are many, many reasons for this. They're complicated, they're difficult, they seem intractable, but we will get after it and we will get on them. We'll also work with the council, the mayor, and our legislative delegation and other stakeholders to develop a comprehensive plan that identifies and attacks the many root causes of this problem, because this is not just an educational problem. It begins long before the school day starts and it ends long after the school day ends. Perfect attendance is not a pie-in-the-sky thing. It is the best way by which our kids can close the achievement gap. If we intend to close the achievement gap, we must get our average daily attendance above the statewide average. We cannot hope to make up ground when our kids are in school less than their peers in other cities and towns. So that has to be a top priority. I want to just talk for a moment about what I think there's some uncertainty. This is a time of transition and there is uncertainty. I've even been told of rumors that run at 960 Main Street of a coming house cleaning. Change is inevitable. There'll be new faces that come, there'll be old faces that go. But I'll say this, and I'll say this openly, and I think anyone who knows me knows that I shoot straight. There's no purge, there's no political hit list, there's no list of protected favorites. The next superintendent will have a free hand to assemble his or her team, just like Dr. Kishimoto and just like Dr. Adamowski. Qualifications, demonstrated ability, and proven performance will be the standards, not connections or the lack of connections. We know that we are blessed with many hardworking, dedicated, capable, and sometimes even brilliant employees at all the levels of our system and throughout our many schools, and we're thankful for all of you. We ask only that you give it 110% each day, progress your work successfully, and think about and care about our kids as if they were your own. If you do that, you have nothing to fear in a new superintendent or a new chairman or a new board. I'd like to conclude. I know that sometimes I say things that are hard. I'm sorry if they wound people, because that is not my intent. I say them because we can't become complacent, and I fear sometimes we do. We worked very hard, and we've done some truly extraordinary things in this city in the last 10 years. And given the number and the complexity and the difficulty of the problems which remain, I think it's only natural that we retreat into our success and we use it as a shield against the hard reality of all the work that still has to be done. I think it becomes very easy to delude ourselves into thinking that the race is all but won and to congratulate ourselves on the victory. But we can't delude ourselves, not even for 1 minute. For all the work we've done, many struggles still lie ahead. For all the problems that we've overcome, twice as many remain. Until the race has actually been won, we cannot stop running, and we certainly can't begin to celebrate. But just as we cannot fall prey to delusion, neither can we fall prey to despair. After a decade of hard work and billions of dollars spent, we're only about 1/3 of the way toward closing the achievement gap. We may not even be that far, because many of the problems which remain seem harder and more intractable than the problems we've solved. Under such circumstances, I think it's easy to lose heart and to become cynical and to lose hope. In a moment of weakness, everyone asks, how much more can I do? How much more can anyone expect? The answer is more. I came to Hartford almost 20 years ago to this very day. When I arrived, the state of our schools was a disgrace, and not long after I arrived, they were taken over by the state. Now, however, there are things we can be proud of, many of them, and there are good reasons we can be hopeful. We must draw strength and inspiration and courage from all the good things we've already done to fortify ourselves for what lies ahead on the rocky road we're on. It won't be easy, but we can walk the path. So let us move forward on this path, because the roads that look easier lead us nowhere. Public officials typically make sweeping promises and offer bold predictions when they come into office, so I'll make mine. I promise you blood, toil, tears, and sweat. I predict there will be bitter disappointment, numerous failures, and there will be many moments when every one of us, me included, will want to run away and quit. I would be lying to you if I said otherwise. But I also promise you that we have the courage and we have the skill we need to carry our work through to the end. I promise you that if we persevere, there will be victories that wash away the bitter defeat. I assure you that at the end of the long and rocky road, there lies a place of promise and plenty. And I predict that if we do persevere, we and our children, we will find that place. Thank you. I've talked quite enough for one day. Dr. Kishimoto.